Hey guys, Dan here with Dan's Millionaire Code. And every week I bring you someone who's just massively changing the world. People who've built companies, giving back at the same time to help the planet just as much as they're scaling companies as well. And today's guest is a guest that I've dreamed about to have on the show for a long, long time. It's Dan Fleyshman, and I'll give you a quick rundown. He's the youngest founder of a publicly traded company in all of history. After licensing his apparel for a company for $9.5 million at 19, he went on to scale energy drink products into 55,000 retail stores. Over the years, he's also launched one of the top 5 online poker sites globally and thrown 37 elevator night events. He co-founded the 100 Million Mastermind Experience, spoken over 200 business events, angel invested in over 36 companies. His agency, Elevator Studio, has spent over $60 million with social media influencers, fashion brands, film studios, consumer products, everything. And your main passion is your Model Citizen Fund charity, which creates backpacks for the homeless filled with 150 emergency supply items inside.
I sound old, yeah.
Oh, man, but it's awesome. We met on Instagram through just kind of messaging, and then we found out we had a lot of friends who were in common as well. And you happen to be in Salt Lake City now. And one thing I think we both have in common is we love scaling things.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big thing. So tell us how you built this. Where'd you come from, and how'd you get to where you are today?
We came from nothing. So I was in high school working 3 jobs and saving up money, working at a diner with my sailor's cap on, working at the stadium selling peanuts and Cracker Jacks, and working for a stockbroker under the table, and just saving up money so I could try to pay for college, because we didn't have, a family of 4 had $2,000 a month in income. It's not exactly enough for college. And so I saved up $43,000, and I was like, okay, I got my college money. I'm gonna have a little bit extra for rent and life, and And instead, I started a clothing company. Oh. And my partner, he just always kept saying this catchphrase, "Who's your daddy?" And people would laugh, or they think it was sexual, or sports related. They had an emotion to it. So the fast forward version is we made T-shirts. I sold them out at lunchtime. Made T-shirts again, sold them out at lunchtime, and making $1,500 in high school, you're a millionaire, right? You're rich. Yeah. And so ended up going to a clothing convention. We did over $1 million in sales at our first show.
At one show.
Yeah.
Wow.
And didn't have a manufacturer to make the clothing, so I had to scramble around all over LA. Finally found someone who's still one of my dearest friends 22 years later. And by 19 we did the $9.5 million licensing deal.
Wow.
23 we took it public on the stock market.
Whoa.
And then from 23 to 27 I don't really remember. All I did was sell. And I just went planes, trains, and automobiles and just sold the energy drinks into those 55,000 retail stores.
Wow.
I woke up out of my daze and boom, 27 years old. And that was my 10-year anniversary, so I resigned from the company so I could put another feather in my cap and start an online poker site. I went and signed Dan Bilzerian, DJ Steve Aoki, Playboy Playmates, Poker Pros, all different types of characters to make this poker site. And then within 10 weeks, we were live. Within 10 months, we were one of the biggest brands in the world.
No way.
And then online poker gets shut down in America.
Oh, no.
So something called Black Friday, which was the worst day. And
it was just off?
My competitors got shut down. I didn't. FBI took over my competitors' websites. Seized all their bank accounts, hundreds of bazillions of dollars. Nothing happened to me. So by default, I win. I'm like, well, I don't want to win like that. I don't want to get a knock on my door, right?
And so, you don't want a free orange suit.
Exactly.
Right?
So I spent the next 4 days, and I manually paid back tens of thousands of people. Just manually, you guys know, with how much. Imagine manually paying people back on merchant accounts.
That's a lot of work, man.
Back then, a decade ago, right? So anyways, that worst moment of my life business-wise became the best moment of my life because I realized I never want to have all my eggs in one basket ever again. And so I became an angel investor. And so I've angel invested in 36 companies since then. I started my social media agency because of that terrible moment in time. And, the rest is history.
It's incredible. Hey, I have a question for you because I grew up in Los Angeles as well, and we were really super poor on food stamps at one point in time. What part of LA did you live in?
Long Beach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sherman Oaks.
Yeah.
There. So pretty close to each other,
yeah.
Not too far. So that's incredible. And I got to ask you this. As you got to where you are today, was the poker shutdown the biggest butt kicking you've ever had? Is that the most painful?
Yeah.
And that. So how did you deal with that?
From a company worth tens of millions of dollars. April 19th, I had already paid $63,000 for flights and hotels for all the models and poker pros to all fly for a poker shoot. We're gonna do a big shoot for our big new campaign. We're getting 3.5 million. Like, it was all these things were happening April 19th. April 15th is Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a $60-something million valuation. April 19th, big campaign about to happen. We're going to really scale the business even more. We're getting tens of thousands of new players. Everything is like, we're on TV all over the planet, literally on every TV poker show you can imagine. And then boom, everything's ripped out from under you.
Wow.
And it's your competitor's fault. I didn't do it, but the scoreboard's a scoreboard, right? It's still my fault. Doesn't matter. This wasn't my fault. It's still my fault. Company's gone. And so that was the biggest wake-up moment of my life, because now what? You wake up April 16th, what do you do? I was living in Malta by myself. I moved to a foreign country, to a place I'd never heard of, with a backpack and a dream, and I'm living in a place called Malta. I don't even know where Malta is. I'm just living there for 2 years to build a poker site. And so what do you do on April 16th? Everything's shut down April 15th.
Wow.
And so, in my mind, it wasn't a decision. I'm not going to do anything but pay every single person back, dust myself off, and start over.
Were you scared? Did you have, like, grieving or what?
So, I have this saying, it's, don't sit on the floor and cry about it.
Don't cry.
So if I sat on the floor and cried, by the way, I had really good purpose or reason to cry at that moment, because I just lost a company worth tens of millions of dollars on the brink of getting even much bigger 4 days later. If you sit on the floor and cry about it, literally nothing changes, except you get sadder and sadder and sadder for yourself, right? Instead, I woke up the next morning and I called proactively every media outlet, from ESPN to local news, and explained to them, hey, look, I didn't do what Full Tilt and PokerStars did. Here's my merchant accounts, here's my bank account, here's KPMG accounting. Like, I showed everything. I'm paying everybody back manually as we speak right now, the next 4 days, blah, 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 blah. And I became the good guy in the space.
Nice.
But by being busy and owning it, instead of like waiting around and seeing what happened and what should I do and what we, cry, I got busy, and then I started getting phone calls. I got hired by some of the biggest casinos in the world. I got hired by one of the biggest financial institutions in the world, Morgan Stanley, to consult for them about gaming.
Wow.
And so my tragedy turned into me getting back on my feet and making me realize I can angel invest in companies. And so I never had time to grieve, and I don't let myself time to grieve when things happen, because bad things are going to happen, and crying will never fix it.
Where did you learn that? Was it your mom, dad, or relatives, or mentor?
I don't think crying is like a thing in like a, hard Russian family that immigrated here. It's emotions, and crying isn't really our thing.
Yeah.
And so it didn't even cross my mind. When bad stuff happens, you just go, you fix it, you keep working. What are you going to cry for?
Wow. Similar background with my parents from China. They escaped all the stuff going on there, and same thing. It's just like, you got to do what you got to do. Get to it, right?
My parents was like, if I bump my knee on this, they'd like, if I hit this, like, how do you think the table feels? they don't, if I started crying, they'd smack me in the back of my head.
So your parents did teach you some of this too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's phenomenal. So with all these different challenges, I want to ask you a question, because I know you virtually influence a massive amount of entrepreneurs that are just getting started and those kind of things too. What's the most common reason why businesses fail? And being that you're an angel investor too, is there a common denominator?
Yeah, so the reason that most businesses fail is that they run out of money. They run out of money because of bad planning in the beginning. And they run out of money because of overspending. Everybody thinks they need the big fancy office as a startup. Not this. This is a humongous warehouse after many years of building a business, right? Mm-hmm. But if somebody gave you $12 million in financing and this was year one and this was your place, I'd be mad at you.
Yeah.
Right? See,
the wasteful, difference. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most people want to build a place like this with their $12 million, spending 6 of it to build the cool place that you have, and then wonder why they're out of money on month 16. Mm-hmm. Because they don't realize it's another $600K a month to keep it going, and they're juggling. And they don't know what bad times are. So the majority of restaurants, small businesses, and all businesses in general run out of money.
That's it.
They are not prepared for the rainy days. They're not prepared for, forget the COVID situation. That's a hopefully once in a lifetime like tragedy as far as a financial tragedy. But they're not prepared for just like, let's say you own a restaurant, they're not prepared for December when there's a snowstorm and you're closed for a month. They're not prepared for the plumbing to go out and you're closed for 3 weeks. They're literally not prepared. They have enough money for a few months of rent.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they don't have income for 3 weeks, it's over. It's not that they have a bad chef. It's not that they have a bad location. Not that they have a bad menu. Not that they have bad pricing. They just ran out of money because they're just not physically prepared for it. Most of our society, most of America, they always show you the studies that we barely have enough money, even 2 months in the bank, to get by.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
Just
people
cross over to their personal.
Absolutely.
Same thing. Wow. Is there a rule of thumb of a certain ratio of burn rate and bills that you recommend a business startup has before they go all in?
Yeah, so for a person, an individual, the normal number I say is 6 months. Like if you're ever going to leave your job and you're going to go become an entrepreneur and all that stuff, you want at least 6 months in the piggy bank, and that's the minimum, right? And I know it's hard. It's not easy to do it, but I would say don't do it until you have that saved up because stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't make as much money as you think you do, even when you're doing well, because you reinvest in your company.
Mm-hmm.
On the company side, I prefer when a company has at least 1 year in the bank. By the way, 1 year is also the minimum because stuff happens, and your 1 year could become 5 months if you need that money for something else. A big opportunity comes up, a lawsuit comes up, all of a sudden 6 figures needs to go somewhere. You go from 12 months in the bank to 5. But if you have that, you have some kind of cushion. Again, most companies have 3 months in the bank.
Wow.
Most restaurants have less than 2 months in the bank.
That's scary.
You're living.
Yeah. Dangerous. So that 1 year buffer is critical if you have a business, and 6 months just for yourself as a person with that. Are there any other common denominators for this? My ADD kind of kills me sometimes. These 36 companies that you invested in,
Yep.
I've heard different angel investors say, man, I invested in 20 and 19 failed, but one hit big or none.
So most angel investors, they're going to have an 8 out of 10 ratio, 8 out of 10 going bankrupt. 8 out of 10 not working. Out of my 36 are still alive.
What?
But here's why. I'm only investing around 6 companies a year. So the last 6 or 7 years, I'm cherry picking 6-ish. Okay? I'm looking at 300 to 400 deals a year.
Oh.
So I'm thinking about I'm picking like 1 to 2% of what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like getting through Harvard to get down to this, to this tiny 1 or 2% that I'm picking, and I'm only picking companies that I can help.
So 6 companies a year out of
300-ish.
300.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I only take meetings or presentations with maybe 40 to 60 of them, but I'm looking at 300 to 400 decks per year. So from all of our elevator night events, people send in submissions, and then I'm narrowing it down. And then at our events, we usually have 12 companies present. That's 36 or 48 sometimes a year at our events. I might only invest in 1 or 2 out of an event.
Wow.
My friends in the room, we fund 50 to 60% of those companies on average. Mm-hmm. So they will get funded more than half the time. But I'm still, even with my friends are investing, I'm still only picking 1 or 2.
Wow.
And so now listen, out of the 36, there's only been 6 either exits or public offerings. So I'm not saying that all 36 have hit it big or anything. They're just all still alive and kicking, and nobody's going to go broke this year or next year because they all have capital behind them. I care about sales. So I don't talk about like, oh, this company had another 28 million funding round. I rarely post about that type of stuff.
It's your number one thing, sales.
Yeah. Most of my companies don't have any other investors but me or my circle.
Wow, that's
I want
nice
them to sell.
too.
Like Elevator, my agency, I have no investors or partners. It's just my CEO that I brought in a couple years ago. Nobody else has equity. A lot of the businesses that I do, I self-fund simply because I want to build it up to a point that when I do have sales, at a point that then it becomes more interesting for investors.
It's pretty interesting. I think we share a lot of similar philosophies because I have 5 different companies now. We have that cloud software for online backup. and security, computer security, right, and computer hardware, and then retail and those things. And this interesting approach of some of these rules that you gave me are ones same rules I follow, which kind of trips me out. And the interesting thing in our portfolio of companies that we have, I've never taken in outside money, and people go, "Man, Dan, you're a control freak." I'm like, "Well, I just don't want too many opinions in it, right?"
Yep.
And then our track record over 30 years, we've never had a year not in the black.
Awesome.
And again, because that buffer, because in 2008 and then Y2K and all this stuff, .com bubble burst, it got really close. But having that extra ammunition really, like you were saying, gives you that ability to take advantage of opportunity and live and survive.
Yes.
When that happens. Man, this is incredible. So some of the projects that you're working on now, can you tell us a little bit about what's current and what's hot in your mind?
My sports card shop, because we do what's called live breaking. So we're opening up packs of cards live on Instagram and YouTube. And we just had, on day 62, we hit 1 million in sales.
Wow. I saw that. That's
It's been
phenomenal.
6 days since then, we did 202,000.
Wow.
So we did 200K in 6 days. So it went from 300K the first month, 500K the second month, 200K the week after, and now another 200K the week after that. So we might end up at 600 to 800K on month 3.
Now, there's a lot of card shops. I always see these different card shops, comic book shops, and they look the same way since like we were little kids.
Yeah.
You've taken them and modernized them, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's incredible that you're taking something that's been happening for a long time and made it real.
It really is the Blockbuster versus Netflix feeling that Blockbuster videos have been around for decades and they wouldn't change. They wouldn't evolve, even though they saw Netflix becoming bigger and bigger and evolving and going from, in the mail, DVDs and CDs coming in the mail to a subscription site to the behemoth that they are today. People look at Blockbuster and Netflix, that story, and they think it was like a one moment. Like, oh yeah, he came by, Reed Hastings came by, and they just said, no, we're not going to buy you, and that's the moment. No. This went on for 10, 15 years, right? Like, they watched the evolution.
It's a train wreck in slow motion, right?
That's what you see. If you go to sports card shops, they've been around for 20, 30, 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just set in their ways. And I don't want to say, I can almost say it like it's like no fault of their own. It's just they've been in that same chair for their whole life.
Mm.
They can see that live breaking is working, right? They can see what I'm doing online. And I didn't invent live breaking. Other people have been doing live breaking. They won't. They know that eBay's crushing it. They don't post their cards on eBay. They know that StockX is cool and they can get a premium. They don't post on StockX. They don't even have an account.
Whoa.
And so they just won't change. So I'm trying to make the cool, modern version. Again, not too cool. I still want mom and dad to come by and bring their kids. But, Steve Aoki and DJ Ski and different characters are going to have fun opening up packs and cards.
Well, just analyzing your personality over the years on social, I think my observation as an outside observer on what you do is you execute like a madman. Really, you have a thought, you think of the process, you draw out the operational process of that, so there's a system so it can be replicated and scaled, and you just go.
Just go.
Is that a secret? Because I keep watching you do this with one thing after another.
It's fun to me. It's a game, right? And if it doesn't work, I'm not risking millions of dollars, right? If I start something, I'll put up 0 to 6 figures, set up shop, get everything going, and if it's an interesting trend or interesting time, and if it works, great. I did it with hoverboards. Did $5.4 million in sales in 5 months.
Wow.
And then when hoverboards weren't cool anymore, I stopped. I did it with 8-foot teddy bears. There was a 6-foot teddy bear. It was crushing it at Costco for $2.99. Okay, let's make mine 8 feet for $1.99.
Sounds so simple.
Right? Then I'll have Jake Paul go post it at the LAX airport and get on international news, and we'll have fun with it, and we sell out a warehouse full of teddy bears. But then when it's over and the holiday season's over, that's it. I don't have emotion to it. The only company I have an emotion to is my agency, my mastermind, my academy, things that I built like that. But when I make a hoverboard or teddy bears or those type of things, it's fun. It's like a game.
That's cool. And you win at it, because there doesn't seem to be any fear of loss, less, and never that you have.
No, not at all.
You're just, okay, let's go, man.
So what if I lose? I'm gonna lose. People are gonna lose.
You can see the courage, though. You can see that. I'm watching also your videos. You see that courage, but it doesn't seem like you're blind firing either.
No, I'm grabbing on to trends and situations and timing. Right. Gary Vee got me into sports cards. I watched what he was doing. I watched
You guys related?
Very similar story. Yeah. Similar family story. No, he brought me out to Chicago to the National, which is the biggest convention. I was going to go for 4 hours. I stayed for 4 days. And got me hooked. And then we started group chats together with all these different characters that started buying up sports cards. And I watched as my friends that are smart business people and some of our mutual friends that just started buying 6 figures of sports cards, some of them 7 figures of sports cards. And I realized, okay, maybe there's something really here. And then I watched the trend turn from a trend to like mainstream. And that's when I said, okay, I'll open a card shop. I'll open a live breaking business. 7 weeks later, I was open. And here we are.
I have a friend, Rick White. We had the same mentor. And he sold Fusion.io for $3.5 billion.
Oof.
But he said, hey, I'm going to show you how to make a lot of money starting a new business, because he went full retirement, right? And so he bought $120 million in original film cells for cartoons and that. It's called Animation Legends. He's sitting on a garage of that. I need to hook you up with him, because I think he can't. He's been selling. He gave it to his kid to figure it out. But he's sitting on $120 million. You're talking original Bugs Bunny, Yogi Bear, all this stuff. I think you guys could figure out a good strategy.
Yeah, I definitely have characters that like that stuff. A lot of my circle likes that stuff for sure.
Man, this is so incredible. As to respect everyone's time, your time, could you leave some of the men and women out there watching this? Because there's a lot of young entrepreneurs, a lot of people who have very great businesses going. What's some advice you'd leave maybe for the advanced, more developed entrepreneur, and then the ones that are like, I'm scared, I'm stuck in COVID, but I'm thinking about doing something?
Okay, so first for the people that are scared or wondering or not sure what to do, I sign my books with 3 words and I don't say anything else ever. Just get started. What happens is when you just get started and you set up your website, come up with your name, you get all your social media accounts, you get a bank account, you get your corporation, you get all these things. Think about what I just said. This is all like $20, free, a couple $100. Nothing is thousands of dollars. Just set up shop. You just start getting started. When all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I feel like I have a company. I got a website, I got a bank account, I got 5 social media accounts, I got a business plan. You didn't really spend much money to do it, but when you just got started and got the process going, now it's different when you pitch us. Mm-hmm. It's different when you talk to your friends and family. When you tell your friends and family, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, they don't believe you because you got nothing to show them. So spend some time, not much money, spend some time setting up shop and just get started.
Just get started. 3 words of wisdom there.
And then for the advanced people, there's never been a better moment in time to start a company or take over someone else's company. What I mean by that is starting a company because it's never been cheaper. You can do anything you want for so inexpensive because there's so many apps and websites that democratize it for everybody. You think you need a fancy lawyer? Go to LegalZoom.
Mm-hmm.
Think it's really expensive to build a website? I mean, there's 50 different companies that'll build your websites for nothing, for pennies on the dollar. You couldn't spend that much money anymore the way it was back in our days. So now's never been a better time to just actually start a company, and then taking over a company is even more interesting. Because, sadly, 110,000 small businesses, for example, are not reopening. 110,000 restaurants, for example, are not reopening. Mm. People can put cloud kitchens in there. People can put delivery services in there. People can put other types of businesses within those locations. Most restaurants have pretty good locations. But they're leaving their equipment.
It's almost free.
It's almost free. And by almost free, I mean it is free. They'll pay you to take their place. They just don't want to pay their lease anymore. And so there's a lot of situations like that. That happens to dry cleaning. 1 out of 3 dry cleaners are not going to reopen.
Wow.
Do you know how many tens of thousands of dry cleaners there are in America? 1 out of 3 are not going to reopen because the office buildings are not reopening. And so if the office building's not reopening, the employees that wear suits don't need dry cleaning. If you work from home, you don't get dry cleaning, right?
You don't need dry.
you work anyway. You work at a restaurant. You used to get your clothes cleaned all the time. You don't go to dry cleaning. You just clean your clothes. And so that will change over time. So if the local dry cleaner moves out and leaves all his equipment, and you can take over a place with $100,000 in equipment for free, it's like getting paid to take it. You can weather the storm for when it does come back, because it will come back. We're not going to all work from home forever. It's not going to happen. We are a village society. We want to interact with each other.
So it's a gold mine right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can get stuff for almost free.
I literally opened a retail store in the heart of Hollywood when I have no neighbors for 3 blocks either way. They're all bankrupt and gone. I opened up and I did $1 million in 62 days.
Shh.
With Everbowl, our acai bowl chain, Aaron Wagner signed 16 new leases in the last 5 weeks. While everybody else was closing down their places and trying to figure out how to get out of leases, we opened up 6 stores in the last few months and signed 16 more leases on top of that.
Wow.
So while everybody's retreating, we're all in because
Exactly.
we're going to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting leases better. We're getting exit clauses. We're getting 6 months free rent. We're getting this. We're TI improvement.
You don't even have to personally guarantee a lot of these now.
No.
They just want you to give them money. Wow. That's the opportunity that I've been focusing a lot of energy on in real estate is, with a lot of the tax law potential changes that are happening with 1031 exchanges and long-term capital gains, and with the restaurants and those going out of business, there are just so many for lease signs. And a lot of these landlords that are older gentlemen, men and women, they're scared. They want to take their money off the table at the current tax rate. So it's crazy. I get 15, 20 calls a week. Hey, dude, you want to buy my strip mall with it? There's a gym in it, and and restaurants. It's 50% vacancy. Take it now. It just reminds me exactly of 2008-9, where buildings that we were buying were $1 million building. We bought a small $1 million building, $500,000, and it was like, you serious? And they were begging.
Right.
So wow. And interest rates are low and all these great things. I want to summarize some of your wisdom here, because if I don't write it down, I always forget this. And friends, I'd love for you guys to watch this over and over, though, because Dan's wisdom is just amazing. The first thing you taught us is don't sit on the floor and cry. Like, focus, take action, get on it, right? Second thing, the number one reason why businesses fail is because they run out of money. That's a big one. And so for yourself personally, you want 6 months to cover your expenses, and if you're a business, at least 1 year. Number one thing you look for when you're investing is sales, is getting the sales. 80% of deals fail. You're saying 8 out of 10, right?
Yeah, a little higher.
And then I love this rule. You screen 300 deals to get maybe 6 a year. And that's like me. I will go over about 100 different real estate offers and deals before I even pick maybe even a couple.
Right.
Be scrutinous with that, right? And then the golden advice here is just get started.
Yeah.
Just get started. And then for you advanced gamers out there, start or take over, because it's a gold mine now. Man, this is gold. This is great. It reinforces and teaches me a lot of things too. So I really appreciate that. Is there any last thoughts that you have for anybody out there that's sitting in your head you'd like to tell the audience about?
I just think we're in the most unique moment in time. For 2008 was interesting when we had a financial crash because people didn't really know we were in it until a year or two afterwards. Like in 2009 and 10, they actually were like, wait, we're going through this whole economic crisis, and there wasn't much to do back then because we didn't have all the apps and websites and things and platforms as we did back then.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's so many more ways to make money that didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You can Airbnb your house. You can Uber on the side. You can be a Postmates driver in the daytime. You can be a teacher and teach people how to play guitar, or teach people Spanish, or teach people how to play video games.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have those things in 2008. There was no social media accounts besides your MySpace, right? If I would have said Instagram back then, you would have looked at me like I had 2 heads.
That's right.
Right? What's a Snapchat? And so you just have so many ways to make money that it shocks me how many people sit at home and worry or complain as if it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ways that you can make money are staggering. And I mean staggering ways. And you can do it all from your cell phone, all from your laptop. People are getting paid to play video games at scale,
It's crazy.
massive scale.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this sad situation, more than ever, people are stuck at home watching. So social media numbers are going to the roof. Video game numbers are going to the roof. TV numbers are going to the roof. And so the services that you provide, if it's teaching video games or teaching Spanish or teaching guitar or teaching any of those type of things, you can now do from the comfort of your home. So if you're in a bad situation, you lost your job at the medical facility or you lost your job at the restaurant, think about the things that you love or the things that you're good at. Maybe you don't even love them, you're just good at them. Offer them, teach them, make instructional videos about them. Get out there. It doesn't cost you anything to build your personal brand.
Man, this absolute wisdom. And you share this wisdom on your social media. I see it all the time. I mean, you do more Instagram stories, and it's all super valuable. Where's the best place for everyone to find you?
Instagram is my most fun. That's at DansFleyshman. All my social media platforms are the same screen name.
Okay.
But my Instagram is my most fun.
At Dan Fleyshman. Yeah. Dan, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a super blessing to have you here to share all this wisdom. It always gets me invigorated and excited to hang out with other Jedi like you, like myself and you, just hanging out. And we're going to get together with a bunch more Jedi this week. So
absolutely.
It's going to be huge. And people can see that on your social media of kind of what's going on. Some of that will be documented, and people can see all the festivities, though. So, Dan, thanks again, man. I really appreciate you, man. Okay. Oh, man, this is great. Guys, it's been a pleasure having Dan Fleyshman here. Every week, I bring you a Super Jedi. All I ask is you guys do just two things with this. One, you execute and you take action with all this knowledge that's being provided absolutely free, no charge to you. You got to execute and take action. And two, share it with friends and loved ones who could benefit and get value from it and execute as well. I'll see you guys again next week. You've been watching Dan's Millionaire Code.